Though Timor-Leste is one of the world's youngest nations, its history is among the most tragic. Shaped by centuries of colonialism, one of the highest civilian death tolls of World War II, and a brutal occupation widely considered a genocide that killed up to a third of its people before ending in 1999. This video explores that history, and ends with some of the most fascinating facts about the country, from the legend that the island is a crocodile to how it became one of the most Christian, multilingual, and shortest nations on Earth. Timor-Leste, also called East Timor in English, is located on the eastern half of the island of Timor, which it shares with Indonesia. Timor-Leste is the only Asian country fully south of the equator. The name Timor is a Malay word that means east. The Portuguese added leste, which also means east in Portuguese, so Timor-Leste literally means east-east. The island of Timor was colonized in the 1500s. The Dutch took the west and the Portuguese took the east. That colonial split is why Timor-Leste exists today as a separate country. West Timor is now part of Indonesia. East Timor also includes a small exclave called Wakuse, located on the north coast of Indonesian West Timor. During World War II, Timor-Leste, then Portuguese Timor, suffered one of the highest casualty rates of the entire war. Although Portugal was neutral, Allied forces, mainly Australian and Dutch, occupied the colony in 1941 to preempt a Japanese invasion. In response, Japan invaded in 1942, launching a brutal campaign that lasted until 1945. The Timorese population, who supported Allied guerrillas, paid a horrific price. Japanese forces carried out mass reprisals, forced labor, village burnings, and executions, leading to as many as 70,000 deaths out of a population of just 480,000, a staggering 14.6% mortality rate. Only Poland, Lithuania, and Nauru had higher proportional death tolls. After World War II, Timor-Leste remained a Portuguese colony while nearby countries became independent. Portugal's dictatorship kept it poor by underinvesting and largely ignoring the colony. In 1974, a peaceful revolution in Portugal overthrew the regime and ended its colonial ambitions, leading the government to start pulling out. After declaring independence on November 28, 1975, it was invaded by Indonesia just 9 days later. Indonesia claimed it as its 27th province. The Indonesian government, led by General Suharto, said it was trying to prevent civil war and keep the region stable. But Indonesia also feared that Timor-Leste, led by a left-leaning party, might become a communist country on its border. The United States helped make the invasion possible. On the day before the attack, U.S. President Gerald Ford and Secretary of State Henry Kissinger met with Suharto in Jakarta. The two gave Indonesia the green light, and Kissinger stated, "It is important that whatever you do succeeds quickly." What followed was a 24-year occupation marked by killings, torture, forced relocations, and starvation. Backed by major Western powers, Indonesia faced little pressure to stop. Between 100,000 and 200,000 Timorese, up to a third of the population, died. Villages were destroyed, people were forced into camps, and anyone who resisted was silenced. The violence escalated after a UN-supervised independence vote in 1999, in which the majority of East Timorese chose to separate from Indonesia. In response, pro-Indonesian militias launched a brutal campaign of arson and violence against civilians. At East Timor's request, and with UN authorization, a multinational peacekeeping force led by Australia intervened to stop the bloodshed and restore order. The UN then took over administration of the territory, one of the few times in history it has governed an entire country. This was until East Timor gained full independence in 2002. But the new country continued to be abused. After Timor-Leste gained independence, Australia took advantage of the young nation through a series of shady moves to claim a large share of the Greater Sunrise gas field, worth up to $50 billion. In 2006, the two countries signed a deal to split the profits 50-50, but the gas field lies much closer to East Timor, and would likely have fallen entirely within its territory under international law. It was later revealed that Australia had bugged Timor-Leste's government offices to secretly gain leverage during oil and gas negotiations. After public backlash and a legal battle, East Timor canceled the deal and signed a new treaty in 2018, finally securing up to 80% of revenue. And here is a list of other interesting facts and pieces of information about East Timor. Timor-Leste celebrates two Independence Days, November 28th, marking its 1975 Declaration of Independence, and May 20th, marking the restoration of independence in 2002. The color black on its flag stands for ignorance and oppression that must be overcome. Yellow represents the country's wealth, red symbolizes the struggle for independence, and the white star represents peace and guidance. The star wasn't and still isn't always tilted, but I can't find a reliable source as to why. It appears the Constitution doesn't specify it, so it can be changed. East Timor is one of the most Christian nations in the world, possibly the most outside of the Vatican, with over 97% of the population identifying as Catholic, and another 1 to 2% Protestant. This strong Catholic identity has deep roots in Portuguese colonial rule, which lasted over 400 years and firmly established Catholicism as part of the national culture. During the Indonesian occupation, the Catholic Church's influence only grew. Indonesia required citizens in its territories to register under one of 6 recognized religions, effectively pressuring many Timorese, whose beliefs often blended animism, to formally adopt Catholicism. More importantly, during the brutal occupation, the Church became a place of refuge and a voice of resistance. Figures like Bishop Carlos Bello, who ended up winning the Nobel Peace Prize, and others provided protection, advocated for human rights, and helped draw international attention to the crisis. Though Christianity is the dominant religion in East Timor, it hasn't erased traditional beliefs. The two have blended in everyday life. One example is the continued use of umalulik, sacred ancestral houses found in many villages. These small wooden thatched roof structures are built on stilts and are believed to hold spiritual power. They serve as a connection to ancestors and the spirit world, and are used for rituals, offerings, and important community decisions. A traditional Timorese legend says that the island of Timor was formed from a giant crocodile who turned into land to repay a boy who once saved it. Because of this, crocodiles are seen as sacred in Timor-Leste and are believed by many to be spirits of ancestors. Crocodiles are of course still common today, especially near rivers and coasts. Despite the dangers they pose, harming one is considered taboo. East Timor is one of the most multilingual countries in the world. It has 2 official languages, Tetum and Portuguese, though Tetum is generally preferred. Indonesian and English are widely spoken foreign languages, and there are over 30 local languages. This diversity stems largely from the country's mountainous geography, which isolated communities and allowed unique languages and identities to form. Portuguese, of course, came from its colonial history under Portugal, and Indonesian comes from its occupation and close contact with Indonesia. As a result, many Timorese grow up speaking 3 or more languages. Timorese people are among the shortest in the world, possibly the shortest, with men averaging about 5 feet 2.5 inches tall, the shortest reliably recorded average height for men, and women around 5 feet. This is unfortunately largely due to extremely high rates of childhood stunting, historically affecting over 50% of children. It's caused by chronic undernutrition, poor maternal health, and inadequate sanitation. Genetics also play a role, as the population's Austronesian and Papuan ancestry tends towards shorter stature, but malnutrition is the main factor. In 1996, Indonesia built a 27-meter statue of Jesus in Dili, Timor-Leste's capital and most populated city. This was during their occupation, and possibly done as propaganda to appeal to the Catholic population and make the Muslim-majority government seem respectful of local identity. It still stands today as a national landmark. The waters off East Timor, particularly the Umbai-Watar Strait, are one of the best places to see pygmy blue whales, especially between October and December. Coffee is a major export crop, and smoking is very common, especially among men. So I don't know if this is actually a fact, but some comments on Reddit said that if you are invited into a local's house, they will very often give you a complimentary coffee and cigarette. The president is known for driving a blue Mini-Moke, a small open-aired vehicle originally built as a military utility car. It became iconic during the early independence years, especially under President José Ramos Horta, and now, in a way, symbolizes Timor-Leste's humble beginnings and resilience. The country uses US dollars for all paper currency, but issues its own centavo coins for change. These local coins match US coin values. From my own research, the country appears to have no international fast food chains like McDonald's, Starbucks, or KFC. Martial arts are extremely popular. After independence, rivalries between some groups turned violent, leading to clashes that sometimes involved improvised weapons. Because of this, martial arts organizations are banned through 2025. And that's all for this video. If you'd like to support the channel, you can purchase one of my maps or posters at mapsandwords.shop. I only have a few dozen designs right now, but I'm regularly uploading new designs, so there may be a lot more by the time you see this video. The most popular is this national park checklist, and I've also started creating language learning posters, such as this Spanish baseball poster. Again, that's mapsandwords.shop if you'd like to check it out. But anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.